The number one question I get asked by new investors that come into co-living that I meet, where should I buy? That's such a loaded question, but I think I have some really simple solutions for you. If you're a brand new investor and you're eager to get into co-living because you realize that our cash flow far exceeds what anybody else is doing, and that our business model is the newest, hottest niche that's out there for single family rentals, here's the first thing that I would do. I would log on to the website for PadSplit, padsplit.com. I would log on as a member. So the secret hack for me is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Let's go ahead and look at what other seasoned investors have already told us. Go look and find a room as if you were a member. All the little dots on the map will tell you where other investors are finding success. So that kind of tells you, hey, if I look into each individual property, what's the finish? What are they charging? What's the revenue side of the business that I'm getting into? What's that look like? Who am I competing with? Great, you got that done. Now, you take that same information and you go to Zillow. All this is free data. It's all available for you. You go to Zillow and you start reverse engineering. Where am I going to buy? So you already know the areas that are kind of hot. Now you go to Zillow and you start looking. I need to reverse engineer my financing. If the lender, and if I'm going to use a debt service coverage ratio loan, we call it a DSCR loan, that lender is going to say, hey, you want to take full leverage, 75% against the appraised value or the ARV, then I got to start there. Right? I got to deliver to the lender a 75% loan. So essentially, I have to go identify properties that fit this ratio. The ratio for a debt service coverage ratio loan is market rate rent versus what I'm going to pay in principal and interest on my mortgage payment. So let's say that the principal and interest on this property that I'm looking for is, let's say, $1,800 to $2,000. Okay, now I'd have to go find properties that the average market rate rent for that property is at least $1,800. You need at least a 1-to-1 ratio for your debt service coverage ratio for the lender to allow you to take the full leverage, which is going to be 75 cents against the appraised value. So how do we find that out? Well, let's use the free data that's out there. Go to Zillow, go look up for rent and start looking in the areas that you want to acquire. There's all of this free data out there that tells you, look, in this area that I'm looking to acquire properties, average market rate rent is between $1,800 and $2,400. Great. I'm in an area that I can go find properties. Now flip that over in Zillow or Redfin or whatever tool you're using and say to buy. Now I'm going to go and look for properties I can acquire in that same geographical footprint. Two little pieces of gold nuggets for you to take away from this is that A, I know because I looked at the PadSplit website that these properties can be converted into a co-living property successfully. So a 4-bedroom, 3-bath can easily convert a 6 or 7-bedroom house. And then on the flip side of that, most builders, when they built these houses in the 60s and 70s and 80s, they built the same footprint. So now you have an area that you're going after to analyze deals that you know can convert into a successful co-living property. Great. Now it's up to you as the real estate investor to go acquire those properties correctly. Do not overpay. At least have a good understanding of what your underwriting is going to be. So now you take that same acquisitional house and you say, can I acquire this house with the market rate rent? Do I qualify for my DSCR loan? And does the bones of the house have the capacity to make a transition from a single family rental into a successful co-living property? And that's how I attack my problem of finding and identifying new properties that I want to acquire as a co-living property. I make sure they underwrite. I make sure that I'm not trying to squeeze a circle peg into a square hole. And I just make sure that it underwrites correctly. The number one problem that I see new investors have is that they suffer from FOMO or fear of missing out, or FOBO, which is even worse, fear of a better offer. They keep trying to settle on a property because they're so frustrated and they've been looking for houses so long and they're aggravated and they've run out of patience. Fine, I'll settle on this house. Don't settle, please. Work with somebody like myself or work with an account executive in our team. Find properties that underwrite correctly, because your first property should be one of the most successful properties that you have. Set yourself up for success.